I call upon the public orator to present a candidate for an honorary degree.
Intensely private people, like Graeme Hart, prefer to do their work, whether business or philanthropy, away from the public gaze. But when that work has major national significance, it is only fitting that recognition accrues, and hence our honouring today of one of New Zealand's most significant business leaders. Graeme Hart grew up in Auckland and went to Mount Roskill Grammar School, where he liked to hang out with his mates in their treehouse rather than attend school. Unsurprisingly, he left school aged 15, not a route he recommended for his children, who are both graduates of the University of Otago. As a young man, Graeme worked as a tow truck driver and as a panel beater. By age 18, he had embarked on his business career, starting a small printing business with the financial help of his father, Cliff, which was very quickly paid back with interest. In the late 1970s, he had not only a family to support, but a determination to reach his goals. We are delighted today to welcome his family, wife Robin, daughter Gretchen, son Harry, and son-in-law Duncan, also an Otago graduate, and sister Christina Dennis, to share in this special occasion with us. Robin has been a steadfast partner in all Graeme has undertaken, including the hard yards of the early business venture, when young Gretchen was taken to work to sleep in the printing office. A work colleague of Robin's from Fletcher's gave Graeme the advice to embark on a Master's of Business Administration, which was a daunting prospect for one who had left the education system so early. Graeme undertook research as to where he might get the excellent training he sought, and decided that the University of Otago offered it. At 32 years of age, having just listed his party hire business on the NZX, Graeme moved his family to Dunedin, with Gretchen attending Columba College. It was 1987, and the world was in the midst of a stock market crash, so Graeme soon found himself multitasking between his business and his study. Luckily, Robin was an excellent speed typist, as she found her skills in great demand in preparing not only Graeme's university assignments, but those also of a number of his student friends. Graeme credits his decision to enrol in the Otago Master of Business Administration degree to be a pivotal point in his career. That experience as a mature student allowed him to test out and refine ideas relating to business growth. Choosing to concentrate on finance, however, came at the cost of a 5-hour exam, whereas other students were popping open champagne. The Otago experience led to lifelong friendships, which are reinforced today by annual Harley-Davidson trips across the United States. In 1987, Graeme completed his thesis on how his party hire company, Rank, might develop strategies to grow into a major corporation. From that point, there was no looking back. From the purchase of the government printing office in 1990, Graeme Hart has concentrated on the challenge of business. He is an investor who specialises in buying businesses in bad shape and turning them around before selling them at a profit. He once said, "Business is what gets me out of bed in the morning. That's my hobby. If I was a mountaineer or an athlete or had an interest in politics or teaching, then I'd spend my day trying to do that to the best of my ability." He is spectacularly good at his hobby. He sees a balance sheet like a picture, which he can improve by taking different perspectives. Amongst his varied business interests, the Reynolds Group is one of the largest broad-based packaging groups in the world. In essence, Graeme Hart loves solving problems, be they to do with finance or design. From the soapbox carts designed with son Harry in the late 1990s to luxury yachts, it is the design process that captures him, rather than what he might do with the product. His philanthropic heart lies with education and children's health. He's a generous yet quiet philanthropist who likes to cruise under the radar. However, I can say that Graeme and Robin are supporters of the National Children's Hospital Starship, the children of Fiji villages, as well as the children of the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. But in the eyes of his friends and family, his time is the greatest gift that Graeme Hart gives, whether to his children or to the 4 grandchildren, his tight-knit group of friends, or others in the community. They value his perspective on whatever they ask him to cast his eye over. Concentration on the detail in order to see wider possibilities flourish has marked Graeme's career, and flourish they have. Chancellor, I have the honour to present for graduation in the degree of Doctor of Commerce honoris causa, Graeme Richard Hart.
By the authority of the University of Otago, I, John Francis Ward, Chancellor, confer upon you, Graeme Richard Hart, the degree of Doctor of Commerce honoris causa. Our graduation speaker today needs no further introduction, and I now invite our newest Honorary Doctor of Commerce, Dr. Graeme Hart, to deliver this afternoon's graduation address.
Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, members of the Council, the public orator, friends and staff of the university, parents and graduates. Before I address you, I wish to express my appreciation to the Council for the honour bestowed upon me earlier in the ceremony, and to the public orator for your kind words. I didn't realise it perhaps was an option that I could spend 10 minutes talking about designing boats. It might have been a whole lot more interesting. And I was sharing with the Vice-Chancellor earlier that she'd been bothering me because she sent me a letter that said, you're going to give this address and you've got 8 minutes, 10 minutes at the most. Yesterday it was 19 and a half. So graduates, today I am addressing you. It is entirely for you. In my preparation, I considered simply what of my career, what of my experiences and learnings may be helpful to you. I'm going to share it in 3 areas. I'm going to share firstly what I think are the essential success factors in any career. These are motherhoods. I'll share a little of my career and I'll try and pick out some experiences and learnings, and I'll put a little eye on the future at the end, what keeps us awake at nights. Firstly, let me just share a graphic. I always find graphics help. So when I think about my career, I think about your career, I think about a graphic. The graphic is a staircase. The staircase is your career. It is obviously a set of steps. There are landings, there are right turns, there are left turns, and today you're at the bottom. And what I have in my mind is a face at the top, and it's a big face with a big smile, and that's your face at the end of your 40-year career. Now, why does that matter? It matters because of this. What I have learned in my career is it is no more or less than a set of steps, but the cumulative output of those steps, the investment decisions that you make each time you step up, the opportunity costs that you incur when you make a suboptimal decision, they all combine to give you an end result at the end of your 40-year career. I'm using 40 years, obviously. It's about realizing your full potential. No more or less than that. You're sitting today, young people, it's hard to reconcile 40 or 50 years in front of you, 2,000 work weeks and 120,000 hours. It's a long time. But I'm telling you, if you just spend some time thinking as you go forward, in 40 years, ensure that you have realized your full potential. Be that smiley face. Here's quick motherhoods, and the reason I think these are important, they hold regardless. If you are looking to reach pinnacles, that's what this is about. I was burning with desire to reach pinnacles. It's exactly the same whether you're a businessman, a sportsman, an academic pursuit, it's the same. So for me, I think about it as my 4 legs, the 4 legs of my stool. It's very simple. Leg 1, passion. You have to get up every day and love what you're doing. And if you do not, make a change, because you will never reach a pinnacle if you don't have a burning passion. Focus. You must have goals. You must have timelines. The goals have to be quantified, and you must hold yourself accountable. You better have determination, and a lot of it. I'm a very determined individual, but what I've learned is, hey, this is hard. This is really hard. Over 40 or 50 years, you have some tough times. That's when you need to dig deep. It's easy when the wind's behind your back. It gets a whole lot harder when it's in your face. Be intense, be obsessive, and never waver. Last leg, self-awareness, critically important. Know yourself well. Understand your strengths and play to them. Understand your weaknesses. Work with them, work around them, don't obsess about them. Other elements in here, always be straightforward in your dealings. Do what you say you will do, and guard your reputation jealously. Critically important as you go through your career. Years to gain, minutes to lose. Finally, develop your interpersonal skills. You are going to spend your life seeking to persuade people to follow you, to buy from you, to work with you, to be alongside you as a colleague. I've never seen a rude success. Put real effort into this. So, when I think about, I go forward into my career, I've got a couple of quick thoughts. Be bold. Be bold, be thoughtful, take risk, be opportunistic, and build great teams. You will, in the future, amount to the people around you. You are the young leaders of the future. It's about your people, and it's about how you lead your people. So very quickly, as we heard, my career started the day I turned 15. So I went to school to be told by the career guidance counsellor that it would be to our mutual benefit if I left school that day. So I did. I left with an average education of my own making, I will tell you. I had too much attitude in one pocket and not a cent in the other. And yeah, you're right, I drove tow trucks. I bought a carrying business. I swapped that for a printing business. Early lessons. Why does this matter? Well, as a sole trader, I very quickly worked out that I can only make money when I'm awake and behind the wheel. No scalability. When you're the guy trying to persuade some poor accident victim that he should give you his car to tow, you learn charm and you learn interpersonal skills very quickly. Why do these points matter? Early lessons matter. Remember the staircase. The lessons you go and get in the next short while, that's money in the bank for 40 years. Your best lessons you get year 1, not year 39. My first endeavour of any note was reference, and it was the party hire business. So I quickly learnt that buying my competitors down the road was a very good idea. I didn't know anything about this. The two charming ladies came to me and said, would you like to buy my business? Well, of course I will. So what I learned was that when we combined them, I took out some fixed costs. I didn't know what they were until I later came to Otago and I learned that these were synergies. I learned that I could charge more for the rental because they weren't up the road discounting, and I gained a thing called pricing power. I learned that when I did my MBA. Not so cool with the Commerce Commission. The other thing that I learned was I had a team of people. And guess what? It's a bell-shaped curve. There's good, there's bad, there's in the middle. I had to sort that out. Then I had to lead them. But the dividend was a great team and a great business. And what made the difference for me was I soon worked out if I want the trucks turned around quickly, get out on the cart dock and help them load. If I want a mountain of dishes ready to rehire the next morning, well, get in the kitchen and wash them. Just a very simple point. You are going to know this for a long period of time. It's about your leadership and about your teams. After my period at Otago, we went on and we purchased the government printing office. This was fascinating. So the government of the day, they were privatising assets. They'd sold their planes and trains, and they had the sticky asset. And it was the government printing office. Well, it turned out that I was the buyer. Why was I the buyer? Well, because I used to own a printing company. Now, seriously, it was not much more than one man with a cyclist style. But I fitted the political picture that they needed. Remember this, because when you deal with people in your life going forward, sometimes they have a profile of what they want you to look like. Work out what that is and fit it. It was a funny time. And the little lesson that comes out of it, I'll share it with you. So I don't normally throw numbers around, but I will do. So at the time, this is 86, 87, the assets on the balance sheet, now this is a government balance sheet, so be skeptical, $40 million. The purchase price, $20 million. The money we had in that funny little company that we referenced, we sold, $2 million. Yeah. Perfect. Boxing well above my weight. So what's the point? The point is be bold. First thing I said, be bold. In my world, what does that mean? That means buy as big as you can, borrow as much as you can, and then work the asset as hard as you can. Had a little funny moment in there that I do want to share, managing my time. So I had a close colleague, David Brown, who he and I worked in the government printing office. He decided he wanted to go over and check out the night shift. He got there, it was about 2 a.m. in the morning, and there weren't any printers. There was a few other people wandering around, but there wasn't a lot going on. So David looked around, he saw a ladder in the corner. So he scurried up the ladder into the loft, and he found the bar, a pool table, and the lounge, and all the printers. Now, why does that matter? Stay close to whatever it is you're responsible for as you go forward. You cannot ever take your eye off the ball. So then we go on, and I've built the little business up. We'd added Whitcoulls and a few other businesses. We cashed up, and I was looking for bigger horizons. So it came in the form of Burns Philp. So this is an Australian company, and embedded in the company was a global yeast business that I was very attracted to. I'm sitting down in New Zealand, and I'm like, there's a big world out there. How do I get to that big world? Oh, I can see what I'll do. I'll go and buy Burns Philp. Well, so Burns Philp, as it turned out, the management had been less than forthcoming about the state of their financial affairs. In fact, it was a very old company. It originated in the 1800s. I think I later learnt that their core business was the equivalent of slave trading and currency manipulation. So they printed all the money for the Pacific Islands and moved the labour around. So I should have been on notice. My first board meeting, the most important topic for the directors was the vintage of the wine we were to drink for lunch. So, big warning. It became a little more sobering as I set out for them the state of affairs and the choices in front of us. I'll never forget it, there weren't enough exits in the room. So there we were, left with Burnsville, a bunch of angry banks, and a 2-year exercise selling assets, restructuring and recapitalising. Why does that matter? It was a very, very tough time. That was the headwinds. And I'll share a couple of things. You're going to get bruised, and you're going to have your headwinds, and it's not a bad thing. A little bruising teaches you how to fight. That experience stood me in great stead for the next 20 years. The other one I learnt is, when you've made an error of judgment, put your head down, put your shoulder to the wheel, and put your ego in the back pocket. So, Burnsville moved on. We bought Goodman Fielder, which was an Australian conglomerate. We bought New Zealand Dairy Foods out of the formation of Fonterra. A brief little funny in the dairy foods experience. So one of the things I'd learned is the best way to control your costs, and this is anything you're responsible for, I'll use it in this context. So the best way to control my costs in the business was to sign the checks. Then I know where the money's going. I asked the dairy foods guy, one in particular, still a good friend of mine, do you control your... Of course I do. I know where all the money is. We sat down over a couple of beers as a team that night, pulled out his invoices, and when we found the sponsorship for the giraffe at the zoo, we went to dinner. Why does that matter? I want you to keep a vigilant eye on your costs or on the equivalent of your costs, whatever it is you're responsible for. There are always giraffes lurking. So, we're getting there. The business group that we own today, Reynolds Group, it's a reasonable sized group. It's got a lot of beverage packaging, so think milk cartons and the likes. It's food service, so think about Starbucks cups and McDonald's, and it's consumer packaging, so think trash bags in your kitchen and foil for your potato. In the US, we have 300 million consumers. It's a beautiful thing. So this is a business of real scale. How did I get it? I want to just share 2 key points. The cornerstone to the business, beverage packaging, I purchased from a company called International Paper. We had bought their stake in Carter Holt Harvey. And when we went to buy beverage packaging, we were a list. They had a number of potential buyers. They chose us. Why? The reason was because we had dealt with them in a very straightforward manner when they were selling us Carter Holt. We did what we said we would do, and our reputation went before us. That advantaged us because with beverage packaging, we were able to buy their competitor, Blue Ridge. What do we end up with? Large market shares and synergies, a beautiful thing. Another experience, so we had bought Reynolds and we were now in the middle of the global financial crisis. This was the most frightening period of my commercial life. I will never forget this. I was watching banks collapse, large banks. I was watching bankruptcies on a scale never envisaged. And the financial system in the US was on the verge of shutting down. However, there's a silver lining. Along comes a private equity, God bless them. They lobbed in a bid for a business called Pactiv, a large food service business. Now, the world's melting down around us, and this was like government print. This was us boxing well beyond our weight. But you know what? It was an opportunity. Yeah, the world's melting down. Can we deal with it? Yeah. Is it bold? Yeah. Were we thoughtful? Yes, we were. Was it a risk? Yes, it was. We bought it. What do we end up with? We end up with a wonderful business, a formidable group, and another step on that stairway to heaven, so to speak. The future. What do we think about a lot in my office today? Disruption. So no speech is complete without plagiarizing a quote. Here it is. Disruption is coming on like a freight train. You're either on the train or on the tracks. So what does that mean for you? So when we look at in our world, we're looking at technology, we're looking at artificial intelligence, quantum computing, sharing economy, Airbnb, Uber. You know what I'm talking about. Look, it's seductive, it's exciting, but it's opaque. Most importantly, it's disruptive, and across the period of your career, it is going to redefine the world as we know it. I will tell you, there is no business that we have found that isn't going to be subject to disruption to a greater or lesser degree. And on that point, there is no career you will pursue that is not going to feel the disruptive forces of technology. So I would urge you to focus on this, study it, research it, in the most comprehensive way you can as you think about your 40-year investment decisions. I don't want you to become a blind victim of disruption, rather a beneficiary. In my view, you are standing in front of a frontier of opportunity. Embrace it, be passionate, be focused, be determined, and I wish you every success.
Thank you very much, Graeme. It has been a privilege and an honour to have you here today to address our newest graduates. Your commitment to your business objectives, your family and community is a wonderful example to today's graduates and to the rest of us present this afternoon. Your inspirational words will resonate with them as they embark on their next phase of life. Please join me again in thanking Dr. Hart.